What if someone told you they had been in contact with extraterrestrials, that they had received an invitation to leave Earth? Would you believe them? Would you laugh it off? Or would you wonder, what if they were right? This is not fiction. This is the true story of Granger Taylor, a gifted Canadian mechanic who left behind a cryptic note, walked into a storm, and vanished without a trace. Welcome to Alex Reid's Strangest Files, where we follow the trail of the world's weirdest true stories, even when they lead beyond the stars. Hi, I'm Alex. Tonight, we explore one of the most baffling disappearances in modern history. A story filled with UFOs, genius-level intellect, government secrets, and the unanswered question that still echoes decades later. Did Granger Taylor really leave Earth? This is Taken by the Sky, the vanishing of Granger Taylor. Granger Taylor was truly one of a kind. Born in 1948 in Duncan, British Columbia, he had an uncanny ability to understand and build complex machinery without any formal training. As a teenager, he restored abandoned locomotives, cars, and even airplanes. By his 20s, he had built a fully functional replica of a World War II fighter plane, a feat that stunned even seasoned engineers. People called him a genius, a prodigy, a man who saw beyond the limits of conventional knowledge. But for all his earthly brilliance, Granger's mind was captivated by something far beyond human reach: UFOs. His fascination with extraterrestrial life grew stronger in the late 1970s. It was an obsession that consumed his every thought. In 1975, he began collecting every book he could find on the subject, scribbling notes in the margins, piecing together patterns in UFO sightings like a detective solving a cosmic mystery. By 1977, he was regularly discussing his theories with anyone who would listen, claiming he had discovered consistencies in witness reports. In 1979, he pored over reports of strange lights in the sky, of missing time, of messages from beyond. And then, he took it a step further. He spent months constructing a life-sized flying saucer in his backyard, a crude but striking metallic structure, a place where he would sit for hours, lost in thought, waiting, listening. By early 1980, those closest to him said he believed he was being watched, studied, that the universe was whispering to him. And one day, he claimed he had made contact. Granger told his closest friends and family that he had been receiving telepathic messages from extraterrestrials, voices that spoke directly into his mind, revealing secrets of the cosmos. He spoke passionately about his theories, detailing his beliefs about extraterrestrial technology and advanced civilizations. He claimed that UFOs utilized unknown energy sources, perhaps tapping into forces beyond human understanding. He theorized about interstellar travel, suggesting that advanced beings may not use conventional propulsion, but instead manipulate gravity or dimensions to traverse the cosmos. He suggested that space travel wasn't linear but relied on hidden pathways, wormholes, or perhaps magnetic corridors, woven through the fabric of the universe. He was convinced that such highways existed, used by civilizations far older and more advanced than our own. He claimed they had chosen him for something greater, something beyond human comprehension. A journey through space, a mission to unlock the mysteries of the universe. At first, those around him humored his fascination, treating it as just another one of his brilliant, albeit unusual, obsessions. But as time went on, his conviction deepened. He shared intricate sketches of spacecraft designs, strange symbols, and what he believed were star maps. His notebooks were filled with calculations and theories, some plausible, others seemingly pulled from the depths of imagination. He spoke of coordinates, destinations he believed were relayed to him in dreams. Whether it was true insight or the mind of the slow unraveling of a dreamer lost in his own visions, no one can say for certain. But one thing is beyond doubt: he believed it. And one day, he left a note. On the night of November 29, 1980, a storm raged with such fury that newspapers would later call it the storm of the century. Thunder cracked like cannon fire, lightning split the sky, and gale-force winds howled through the trees like unseen phantoms, shaking the modest house where 32-year-old Granger Taylor had spent most of his life. Rain lashed against the windows of the Taylor family home in relentless sheets, drumming like an omen. Inside, Granger Taylor sat in the dim glow of his room, lost in thought. The wind rattled the walls, as if something beyond the storm was calling to him. His fingers traced over a notebook filled with star charts and strange symbols. He had waited for this night, prepared for it, and nothing, not even nature's fury, would stop him. Beyond those walls, his pink pickup truck sat in the driveway, its tires slick with rain, its engine humming like a pulse in the darkness. The wind shrieked through the trees, rattling the windows, as if the storm itself was warning him to turn back. But Granger didn't hesitate. He stepped into the downpour, the rain drenching him instantly, his breath coming in sharp gasps. Lightning illuminated the sky in jagged bursts, casting eerie shadows across the yard. With one final glance at the only world he had ever known, Granger climbed into his truck, the door slamming shut like the closing of a chapter. The engine roared to life, headlights cutting through the storm. And then he was gone, swallowed by the night, leaving nothing behind but questions, whispers, and the howling wind. Inside, his parents, Jim and Grace Taylor, sat in the warm glow of their modest home, oblivious to the storm raging within their son. The television murmured softly in the background, a distraction from the unease that had lingered in the house for weeks. Granger, brilliant, eccentric, always lost in thought, had been acting strangely, speaking of other worlds, of messages from beyond the stars. They had heard him say such things before, but this time there was something unsettling in his tone, a finality that neither of them fully grasped. As they settled in for what they thought would be another ordinary night, Granger Taylor drove off in his bright pink pickup truck and was never seen again. His note read,
"Dear Mother and Father, I have gone away to walk aboard an alien spaceship, as recurring dreams assured me a 42-month interstellar voyage is necessary to explore the vast universe, then return. I am leaving behind all my earthly possessions to you, as I will no longer require them."
And just like that, he was gone. The note was discovered the following morning. It was cryptic, final, a declaration of departure that shook his family to their core. His parents, overwhelmed by dread, called the authorities at once. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police arrived and launched an immediate investigation. In Granger's bedroom, they found a strange archive: sketches of spacecraft, engineering diagrams, and a fascination with extraterrestrial travel that had consumed him for years. Outside, they inspected his prized possession, a life-sized spaceship replica that Granger had built in the backyard. But it sat there, empty, lifeless, and Granger was nowhere to be found. The house, once filled with the rhythmic hum of his machines, now felt unbearably silent. The quiet was suffocating, an unbearable reminder of the genius who had once filled the space with dreams of the stars. His parents became obsessed with his note, reading and rereading it, searching for hidden meanings, for reassurance that their son was safe somewhere, out there, But the town of Duncan was not as patient. News of his disappearance spread quickly, first whispered among neighbors, then spilling into local newspapers. Friends who had once entertained his cosmic theories now felt a chill settle over them. Rumors swirled, suggesting he had either left with extraterrestrials or met with something far earthlier and more tragic. Search parties formed almost immediately. Locals, law enforcement, and even volunteers from neighboring towns joined in the effort. Day and night, they scoured the dense forests surrounding Duncan, their flashlights slicing through the darkness, calling his name into the silent void. Helicopters flew over the rugged terrain, searching for any sign of movement. The roads were checked, mile after mile, for tire tracks, for any evidence of his pink pickup truck. But nothing. The deeper the search went, the more unsettling it became. It was as if Granger Taylor had simply vanished into thin air. Days turned into weeks, and each failed search effort chipped away at the town's hope. His parents, desperate for answers, pleaded for information, their voices trembling with exhaustion. But no clues emerged. The unease deepened, turning his disappearance into a ghost story that haunted the town. The man who dreamed of the stars was gone, and no one knew where or if he would ever return. The town of Duncan was abuzz with whispers and speculations. As the days passed, the whispers only grew louder, but his parents, heartbroken and uncertain, clung desperately to the promise, the hope, that in 42 months their son would return. And so, the countdown began. Month 1, the house was unbearably silent. The pain of not knowing slowly consumed his parents. Every knock at the door sent their hearts racing. Every late-night phone call made them hold their breath. But no news came, only silence. Still, they refused to believe he was gone forever. So, day after day, week after week, they left their back door unlocked every night, hoping he would return. Friends offered comfort. Neighbors brought warm meals. But behind closed doors, doubts began to surface. Whispers of strange lights, of spacecrafts, of a young man who may have boarded something not of this Earth. What if it was a one-way trip? What if he was never meant to come back? Month 6. The search efforts had faded. No trace of Granger's truck, no clues. His parents still sat by the window every evening, watching the road, waiting for headlights that never appeared. Hope lingered, but doubt started to creep in. Month 12. 1 year since Granger's disappearance. The community still remembered him, but life had moved on. His parents marked the date quietly, their hearts heavy. They told themselves, only 30 more months to go. Month 24. 2 years. Still nothing. The weight of waiting had become unbearable. The 42-month deadline was halfway gone, and with each passing day, the promise seemed more like a fantasy. The whispers of his return grew quieter, replaced by murmurs of tragedy. Month 36. 3 years. Friends who had once believed in his journey had let go. Even the most hopeful among them had accepted that Granger wasn't coming back. But his parents still waited. They still believed. Only 6 months remained. Month 41. The final stretch. Every tick of the clock was deafening. His parents barely slept, haunted by the thought that any day now, their son might walk through the door. But deep down, a terrible question was gnawing at them. What if he never did? Month 42. The deadline arrived and passed. No bright pink truck, no knock at the door. No sun returning from the stars. The weight of reality had crashed down, shattering the last embers of hope. Granger had become a legend, yet he had not been forgotten. Those who knew him still recalled his genius. Young apprentices, inspired by his work, spoke of the evenings spent helping him with mechanical projects, their voices tinged with both awe and sorrow. His name lingered in late-night debates and whispered theories. Even after the 42-month mark had passed, some still clung to his farewell note, convinced he had boarded an alien spacecraft for an interstellar journey. Others took a more tragic view, pointing to his reported struggles with mental health and LSD use in the months before his disappearance. A more chilling possibility emerged. Had he been killed in an accidental explosion, perhaps involving the dynamite he was known to work with? But there were those who refused to accept his death, suggesting he had deliberately staged his disappearance, possibly relocating to Colombia or some other faraway place to start anew. Among the more conspiratorial whispers, some even speculated that he had been taken by the U.S. government, recruited into a top-secret program like those rumored to exist in Area 51. These theories persisted until 1986. For 6 long years, the mystery of Granger Taylor's disappearance remained unsolved, an open wound in the hearts of his loved ones. Then, deep in the suffocating wilderness of Vancouver Island, searchers stumbled upon something that made their blood run cold. A crater scarred into the earth, as if something violent, something catastrophic, had torn through the landscape. Trees nearby were stripped bare, their trunks blackened, splintered like brittle bones. The air itself felt heavy, as if it still carried the echoes of whatever had happened there. Nothing, however, compared to the most haunting discovery of all: the twisted, rusted remains of what once had been a vehicle. Its metal frame was mangled beyond recognition, warped by a force so intense that it had left no room for survivors. Could this wreckage be all that remained of Granger Taylor's beloved pink pickup truck? Investigators approached with growing dread, their breaths shallow as they searched for proof, and they found it. The vehicle identification number, barely legible, confirming the worst. It was his truck. But the nightmare did not end there. Scattered among the wreckage were fragments of human bone, brittle and charred. Shreds of clothing, including a wool sweater, eerily familiar to those who had known him best. Granger's mother, when shown the remains, reportedly turned pale. It was his. There was no denying it. The coroner's office reached a grim conclusion. The remains found at the desolate blast site most likely belonged to Granger Taylor. Scattered amidst the wreckage, the fragmented bones and tattered clothing seemed to tell a tragic story. Yet, an unsettling truth remained. DNA testing was not widely available at the time, leaving a sliver of doubt that gnawed at those desperate for certainty. The official coroner's inquest ruled that Granger had perished from massive injuries caused by an explosion, a violent end suggested by the twisted remains of his truck and the scorched earth of Mount Prevost. This conclusion was as heartbreaking as it was horrifying. A young man, once filled with boundless dreams and an unshakable belief that he was destined for something greater, now reduced to mere fragments. A burned-out wreck in the wilderness, a whisper lost to time. The official discovery of the remains should have provided closure, but instead it deepened the sorrow, casting a long, mournful shadow over all who had known him. For his parents, the pain was unbearable. They had spent years in restless anticipation, clinging to the fragile hope that their son would return, stepping through the front door with stories of galaxies far beyond human reach. But hope, so tender and resolute, was no match for reality. Jim and Grace Taylor were left with only unanswered questions, shattered dreams, and the crushing weight of grief that no parent should ever endure. Their son's mind had soared among the stars, but his body had been found here, on Earth, in the cruelest of circumstances. The coroner's report provided the finality the world demanded. Granger Taylor had perished in an explosion, his journey ending not among the stars, but in the remote, unforgiving wilderness of Vancouver Island. The case was officially closed. And yet, was it? To this day, the fate of Granger Taylor remains a perplexing and heartbreaking enigma. Lingering doubts and unresolved details continue to fuel speculation. Although his death was officially declared in 1986, serious questions remain, beginning with the inconclusive identification of the remains found on Mount Prevost. No DNA testing was conducted. Instead, the conclusion was based solely on pathology and his mother's identification of clothing fragments. Some friends argue this evidence is far from definitive, leaving the door open to doubt. The cause of the explosion that allegedly ended his life also remains unclear. While some believe it was a tragic accident involving dynamite, a substance he was known to work with, others suspect it may have been intentional. Further complicating matters are discrepancies in vehicle descriptions. Official reports described his truck as blue, yet those close to him insist it was a distinct Pepto-Bismol pink, raising concerns about whether the wreckage truly belonged to Granger. Stranger still, the truck was never fully recovered. How such a large vehicle could simply vanish without a trace remains a baffling question. Alternative theories persist. Some still believe Granger faked his own disappearance to begin a new life, possibly in Colombia. Even those closest to him, like his friend Robert Keller, have refused to accept the official account, continuing to believe that Granger may still be out there somewhere. Adding to the mystery, filmmakers investigating the case were unable to locate the reported blast site, despite its supposed significance. This only deepens the uncertainty. Decades after his disappearance, Granger Taylor's story continues to captivate skeptics, dreamers, and true crime enthusiasts alike, a haunting mystery that refuses to fade. Granger Taylor's story remains one of the most haunting disappearances of our time. A man who dreamed beyond the stars, who believed he had found a way to leave Earth, and who was never seen again. What do you think? Did he simply run away? Did he suffer a tragic fate in the storm? Or, just maybe, did he embark on the interstellar journey he believed in so deeply? That's all I have for you tonight, my fellow strangers. Thank you for sticking with me through the entire third episode of my podcast, Alex Reid's Strangest Files. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel and other platforms for more of the weirdest, most mind-bending true stories out there. You'll find all the links in the description. And remember, sometimes the strangest stories are the ones that just might be true. Until next time, my fellow strangers, stay curious, stay weird.